was standing in the kitchen holding my husband's wedding ring in my hand, and he didn't know that I had already decided to leave him the next morning. But that night, something happened. Something I still cannot explain without tears. And that moment, one silent, trembling prayer, saved my marriage. I always believed that marriages end loudly, with shouting, breaking plates, or dramatic exits like in the movies. But mine didn't. Mine began to end quietly. It ended in the silence between me and my husband, Daniel. In the way he walked past me in the hallway without looking up. In the way we slept back to back, pretending to be asleep so we didn't have to talk. It ended in the way we both learned to survive without each other. Even though we were still living under the same roof. People say the opposite of love is hate. But no, the opposite of love is indifference. And that's what our home had become. A quiet museum full of things that used to matter. The day I gave up. I remember the exact moment I broke. It wasn't during an argument. It wasn't when he forgot our anniversary, again. It wasn't even when he said, "Stop overthinking. We're just stressed." It was a random Tuesday afternoon. I was folding laundry, his shirts, the ones he liked. And I realized I hadn't heard him say, "I love you," in almost 9 months. 9 months. That's how long it takes to bring a child into the world. We had spent that same amount of time slowly killing our marriage. Something inside me snapped that day. I looked at the clothes in my hands and whispered to myself, "I can't do this anymore." And I meant it. The distance between us. I tried communicating. I tried being patient. I tried staying quiet. I tried speaking louder. Nothing worked. Daniel was buried in work, buried in stress, buried in everything except me. We lived in the same house but spoke like strangers forced to share a space. He would come home, place his keys on the table and walk past me. No smile. No words. Just silence. And I stopped trying to reach for someone who never reached back. Every night I cried silently, carefully. So he wouldn't hear. So he wouldn't feel guilty. So he wouldn't think I was weak. But there's only so much a heart can take. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and remind us of life's quiet miracles, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps our little storytelling family grow. The night before I planned to leave. It was a rainy night. The kind of night that makes you feel loneliness deeper than usual. Daniel was in the living room scrolling on his phone. I was in the bedroom packing a small bag. Just a few clothes. A few personal items. My dignity. What little was left of it. I wasn't leaving forever. I just needed space. I needed to breathe without feeling like I was drowning inside my own home. I picked up his wedding ring, the one he sometimes took off while working, and held it in my palm. That's when my chest tightened. That ring held 11 years of memories. 11 years of love. 11 years of dreams. And I was about to walk away with nothing but disappointment. A whisper I did not expect. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the ring, shaking. My heart hurt, physically hurt. The way heartbreak does when it goes too deep. And then, without planning it, without thinking, without even wanting to, I prayed. A single, broken, whispered prayer. God, I don't know what to do anymore. Please save my marriage. Or give me the strength to walk away. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't holy. It wasn't even confident. It was desperate. Tear-soaked. Exhausted. Hopeless. I only wanted the pain to stop. I didn't expect anything to change. But something did. Something I cannot explain without remembering that moment breath by breath. The moment everything shifted. As soon as I finished that whispered prayer, I felt something. A warmth in my chest. A peace that didn't make sense. Like someone had placed a soft hand over my heart. I wiped my tears, confused. Nothing had changed externally. The room was the same. The silence was the same. Daniel was still in the living room, distant and unaware. but something inside me had shifted. Something small. Something fragile. Something like hope. The kind I thought had died long ago. I wasn't sure if it was real, but I felt it. And then, Daniel knocked on the bedroom door. Something he hadn't done in months. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. And that was the moment I realized. My prayer had been heard sooner than I expected. Daniel's voice at the door didn't sound like the man I had been living with for months. It wasn't cold. It wasn't distant. It wasn't rushed or irritated. It was soft, almost nervous. I froze, wiping my tears quickly with the back of my hand. "Yeah," I managed to say, even though my voice cracked. Daniel opened the door slowly, like he wasn't sure if he was welcome inside. And in a strange way he wasn't. Not into my heart, at least. He'd been locked out for months. He stepped in, hesitating near the doorway, as if crossing that little space felt like crossing a battlefield. "I heard something," he said quietly. I stiffened. "What do you mean?" He looked down at his hands, his thumbs rubbing together. "I don't know. I just felt like something was wrong. Like you needed me." I almost laughed, but not in a funny way. It was the kind of laugh you make when you're too tired to cry again. "You haven't felt me, or needed me in months," I whispered. Daniel flinched. He felt that. The silence that held too much. He sat at the edge of the bed, carefully, like anything he said might break me. "I know," he admitted softly. "And that's why I'm here." It was such a simple sentence, but it hit me like a wave. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't defending himself. He wasn't dismissing my feelings. He wasn't brushing things off with, "I'm tired," or "We'll talk later." He was present. I didn't know how to react, so I stayed quiet, the ring in my hand. And then I realized I was still holding his wedding ring. Daniel noticed it too. His eyes widened slightly. Not angry, not confused. Something deeper. Something scared. "Why do you have that?" he asked softly. I looked down at the ring, my fingers tightening. "I was packing," I said. "Just a small bag. I wasn't going forever. I just couldn't breathe anymore." His face changed. Not in a dramatic way. Not with anger or shock. But with something heavier. Regret. Pure. Painful regret. "I didn't know you were hurting that much," he whispered. I shook my head. "You didn't want to know." He finally looked at me. He lifted his head, and for the first time in months, his eyes met mine, really met mine. And what I saw there broke me a little more. He was hurting too. Not the same way. Not as visibly. But he was breaking from the inside out. "I've been failing you," he said quietly. "I've been gone. Even when I was here." I didn't interrupt. I couldn't. My throat was a knot of emotions. Daniel took a deep breath. I don't know when I started shutting down. Maybe work. Maybe pressure. Maybe I thought I had to deal with everything alone. But I pushed you away. I can see that now. He swallowed hard. "And I'm sorry. I really am." It wasn't the kind of apology that fixes everything. But it was the kind that finally opens the door to healing. The question that changed the night. Daniel glanced at the bag I had half-packed, and then back at me. "Are you still planning to leave?" My heart felt like it was being squeezed. "I don't know," I whispered. "I don't want to leave. But I can't stay in a marriage where I feel alone." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together. "Then don't leave," he said softly. "Stay. Not for me, stay so we can fix this. Together." Normally, I would have doubted him. Normally, I would have thought he was just trying to calm me down. But something was different tonight. Something in his voice. Something in his eyes. Something in the air. Almost like an answer to the prayer I whispered minutes before. A confession I didn't expect. Daniel ran a hand through his hair and exhaled. "There's something I need to tell you," he said. My stomach tightened. "What is it?" He hesitated, but not in the way guilty people do. In the way someone does when they're afraid of being misunderstood. I've been depressed, he admitted quietly. For months. Maybe longer. My breath caught. I didn't want to burden you. I didn't want you to think I was weak. So I shut down. I threw myself into work because it was the only thing I felt like I could control. And in the process, I lost you. He wasn't crying, but his voice trembled in a way I'd never heard before. I didn't know how to ask for help, he whispered. And I didn't know I was hurting you this much. My anger softened, just a little. Because now I understood. We weren't fighting each other. We were both fighting our own silent battles, separately. When maybe, just maybe, we were meant to fight them together. The moment our hearts finally met again. I didn't know what to say. Words felt too small. So I did something simple. I reached out my hand. Slowly. Carefully. Like offering peace after a long war. Daniel looked at my hand like he wasn't sure if he deserved it. But he took it. His fingers wrapped around mine. Warm, trembling, familiar. And something in that moment clicked back into place. A connection that had been broken for months reached out and found its way home again. I didn't forgive everything right away. He didn't become perfect in a night. But that small touch, that one moment, was enough to start something new. And then, still holding my hand, Daniel said the last thing I expected to hear. Can we pray? Together? My breath caught. Because he didn't know. Not yet. That just a few minutes earlier, I had whispered my first prayer in months. The prayer that brought him to the door. The prayer that saved my marriage. When Daniel asked, "Can we pray? Together?" I didn't know what to say. This was the same man who hadn't prayed out loud in years. The same man who used to avoid deep conversations. The same man who would go silent whenever emotions got too heavy. So hearing those words, it felt unreal, unexpected, almost holy. I squeezed his hand gently. You want to pray now?" I whispered. Daniel nodded. "I've been hurting, and I didn't know how to say it. Please help me become a better husband. Help me see my wife again. Help me show up." His voice shook so hard that he had to stop for a moment. Then he whispered, "This marriage means everything to me. Please don't let me ruin it." I didn't expect to feel the things I felt at that moment. Pain, yes, but also relief. And something like renewal. Like we were two broken pieces finally admitting they wanted to be whole again. A shift I couldn't explain. The moment we finished praying, nothing changed around us. Not visibly. The room didn't glow. The atmosphere didn't transform dramatically. But something inside us shifted. I felt lighter. Not completely healed. But no longer drowning. Daniel felt it too. I could tell by the way he exhaled. As if he'd been holding his breath for months. He turned toward me. "We can fix this," he whispered. "I know it won't be easy, but I want to try." I nodded. A small, fragile motion. "I want to try too," I whispered back. And those 6 words, "I want to try too," felt like we had just planted a seed. A tiny one. But seeds grow when cared for. And we were finally ready to care again. The first honest conversation in months. We talked that night. Really talked. For the first time in what felt like forever. The kind of conversation you have when you're finally done pretending. We talked about how lonely we both felt. How we started drifting without noticing. How stress had swallowed him whole. How silence had crushed me slowly. How resentment had built up quietly. How love had faded but never completely died. We didn't raise our voices. We didn't blame each other. We didn't keep score. We spoke gently, carefully, like two people handling something fragile and precious. And the more we talked, the more the walls between us cracked open. At one point, Daniel whispered, "I should have asked how you were feeling, instead of assuming you were fine." A tear slid down my cheek. And I should have told you the truth sooner, I said. I shouldn't have waited until I was ready to leave. He nodded. We both messed up, he said gently. But we're here now. And somehow, that was enough for part 3 of our story. The night ended differently. I didn't sleep on the edge of the bed that night. And neither did he. Daniel lay beside me, close enough for our arms to touch. Not clingy, not desperate, not pretending, just present. He whispered goodnight, softly, sincerely, and that alone made my eyes sting. Because the last time he said goodnight like that, I couldn't even remember. As I drifted off, I held one thought in my heart. Maybe my prayer didn't just save my marriage. Maybe it saved both of us. The morning after our long, emotional night felt strangely unfamiliar, like waking up in a house that looked the same, but finally felt different. I opened my eyes expecting the usual heaviness, the tightness in my chest, the cold distance lying beside me, but instead, I felt warmth. Daniel was awake before me, and he wasn't rushing to get ready for work, or checking his phone, or sitting silently on the edge of the bed. He was just watching me, not in a dramatic movie way, but in a soft, thoughtful way I hadn't seen in months. Morning, he said gently. I blinked, surprised. Morning. Then something even more shocking happened. He smiled. A small, fragile smile, but real. I hadn't seen that smile directed at me in so long, that it almost felt like meeting a stranger. His first step. Daniel stood up, walked to the dresser, and handed me a cup of warm tea, exactly the way I like it. I made this for you, he said. I froze. Daniel hadn't made me tea in nearly a year. Thank you, I whispered, unable to hide the tremble in my voice. He nodded, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. I want to start doing better, he added. I know one night doesn't erase everything, but I'm willing to try. His sincerity made my throat tighten again. Rebuilding love isn't magic. It doesn't happen overnight. But small actions, consistent, intentional actions, open the door back to the heart. And he had just taken the first step. A day full of firsts. After breakfast, Daniel surprised me again. Can we walk together? He asked. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I was realizing just how long we'd been strangers. We walked through our neighborhood, slowly side by side, without phones, without distractions, without rushing to fill silence. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was comfortable. At one point he slipped his hand into mine, and that simple gesture felt like 1,000 unspoken apologies. The hard conversation we needed. Later that afternoon, we sat on the couch with no TV, no noise, just honesty. Daniel sighed. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten, he admitted. You kept everything inside. I kept everything inside. We were both drowning quietly. I nodded. We didn't know how to talk anymore. He looked down at his hands. Do you still trust me? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. The answer wasn't simple. Trust wasn't a switch. It was something fragile that needed rebuilding. I trust that you want to fix things, I said carefully. And that's a start. He swallowed hard, his eyes glistening in a way I rarely saw. That means more than you know, he whispered. Opening old wounds. Healing isn't clean. It's messy. It digs up old pain. It reopens scars so they can close properly. And that day, we dug deep. We talked about how lonely I felt, how much pressure he was carrying, the nights I cried myself to sleep, the days he felt numb and disconnected, how resentment built in small, silent ways, how neither of us asked for help. It wasn't easy. There were pauses where we both needed to breathe, moments where I wiped tears away, moments where he closed his eyes to stay steady. But we kept talking, because talking, honestly, was a step toward healing. The moment he broke. At one point, I asked him a question. Why didn't you tell me you were depressed? Daniel looked away. I didn't want you to see me as a failure, he whispered. I felt like I wasn't enough, like I was disappointing you. So I shut down before you could see how fragile I was. My heart cracked open, because I realized something important. I wasn't the only one who felt inadequate. He did too, just differently. I never needed you to be perfect, I said softly. I just needed you to be present. He closed his eyes, took a shaky breath, and whispered, I'm here now. And somehow, those 3 words carried all the weight in the world. A promise, not perfection. Near evening, as we sat together, closer than we had in months, Daniel intertwined his fingers with mine again. I can't promise we'll never struggle, he said. I can't promise I'll always get it right. I nodded. I know. But I can promise one thing, he continued quietly. I won't disappear again. Not emotionally. Not mentally. Not spiritually. Not from us. Tears rolled down my cheeks again. But this time, they weren't from heartbreak. They were from hope. I won't disappear either, I whispered. We weren't promising perfection. We were promising effort, presence, growth. And that was enough. The night ended with hope. That evening we prayed again. Not long. Not formal. Just 2 people sitting on the couch, holding hands, asking for guidance. God, help us rebuild, Daniel prayed softly. Help us learn how to love again, better this time. I added, help us not give up on each other. And as we sat there in the quiet glow of the living room lamp, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Peace. Real peace. Shared peace. Because now, we weren't fighting each other. We were fighting for each other. And that made all the difference. Healing didn't happen in a week. Not in a month. Not in one emotional night. Healing became a slow process. A rebuilding. Stone by stone. Step by step. Heart to heart. But for the first time in a long time, we were rebuilding together. Small changes, big impact. The days that followed were filled with little miracles. Not dramatic, not cinematic, but quiet, steady changes that slowly stitched my heart back together. Daniel started asking, "How was your day?" And this time, he actually listened. He came home earlier. He put his phone away during dinner. He held my hand when we walked. He hugged me longer than usual. Not a quick, distracted hug, but one with intention. And I did my part too. I softened my tone. I asked questions without assuming the worst. I stopped bottling everything inside until it exploded. We were relearning each other. Gently, patiently, purposefully. The turning point. One evening, about 3 weeks after our turning point, Daniel came into the living room holding something behind his back. "What's that?" I asked. He smiled shyly. Yes, shyly. Like the boyish version of him I hadn't seen in years. "Just sit," he said. He sat. He took a deep breath, then pulled out a small notebook. "I've been writing," he admitted. "Thoughts, feelings, things I want to work on, things I want us to talk about." I stared at him, stunned. Daniel, the man who once shut down emotionally, had written pages, paragraphs, reflections, commitments. "Can I read something to you?" he asked. My throat tightened. "Yes," I whispered. He opened the notebook and read aloud. "I didn't realize how silence can hurt someone you love. I didn't realize how distance can feel like rejection. I want to choose you every day from now on, not with words, but with effort." Tears pooled in my eyes, because this right here, was the man I married. Not perfect, not flawless, but present, trying, growing, and that meant everything. A marriage reborn. We didn't pretend everything was fixed instantly. No marriage heals that fast. Some days were smooth. Some days required extra patience. Some days we had to pray together just to stay steady. But we had learned something important. Love doesn't die when you stop feeling it. It dies when you stop giving it. So we started giving again. We laughed again at small things. Buruntuast, klumsi moments. Inside jokes that returned surprisingly easily. We apologized quicker. We forgave sooner. We talked more openly. We held each other more often. It was like walking through the ruins of something we once broke and deciding to rebuild it. Not the way it was, but better, stronger, wiser, deeper. The anniversary that almost never happened. 3 months later, on the night of our wedding anniversary, an anniversary I once thought we would never reach, Daniel planned something quietly beautiful. Dinner at home, candles, soft music, a handwritten note beside my plate that said, "Thank you for not giving up on us." I felt my heart swell so tight. I had to press my hand against my chest. We ate. We talked. We held hands across the table like teenagers. And then Daniel took out a small velvet box. My breath caught. He opened it. Inside was the same wedding ring I had held on the night I planned to leave. Except now, it looked different. Polished. Restored. Shining like new. He slid it gently into my palm and whispered, "You held this when you were ready to walk away. But I hope you'll wear it because you chose to stay." My tears fell silently. I stood up, walked to him, and wrapped my arms around his neck. "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered. He put the ring back on my finger, slowly, reverently, as if renewing a promise. And in a way, we were. The real miracle. People think miracles are loud, burning bushes, dramatic signs, instant transformation. But I learned something different. Sometimes the real miracle is two people deciding not to let brokenness win. Sometimes the miracle is a whispered prayer, said by someone trying to hold on when everything feels lost. Sometimes the miracle is a soft knock on the door, at the exact moment you needed someone to come in. Sometimes the miracle is a husband who tries again, a wife who forgives, two hearts that choose repair over regret. Our miracle came quietly, gently, tenderly, and it began with one broken, desperate prayer. "God, please save my marriage." He heard it. He answered it. Not in flashes of lightning, but in small daily mercies that rebuilt our love from the inside out. And today, our home isn't perfect, but it is peaceful, warm, alive, hopeful, because love didn't just return. Love was reborn.